too. We can debate what we're getting for the current debt. And in the future, revenues being the green line, if we go back to historical level of revenues, about 18.2% of revenue, if we don't reform Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, if we don't cut defense and other spending, if we don't reform our tax system, and if interest rates don't go up significantly, this is what the future looks like. The fastest growing expense is interest. And what do you get for interest? As we say in the South, shinola, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And in fact, on our current path by 2046, the only thing we could pay with historical federal revenues is interest. Now, obviously, we're not going to get to that point. The markets won't let us do that. Revenues have been going up too, but not as fast. By the way, when you study this carefully, you will see not all tax cuts stimulate the economy, and very few tax cuts pay for themselves. In order to pay for yourself, you have to end up generating more gross revenues after the cut than you would have had otherwise. Very few do that. And so the fact is that we need to make changes on the revenue side. Here's the bottom line at the federal level. The United States is rated number 28 out of 34 in the world on fiscal responsibility and sustainability. If you see who we're rated around, we're not in a good neighborhood. We need to move on up. The good news is if we adopted fiscal reforms that were along the line of the Simpson-Bowles Commission, they're not perfect by any means. You don't have to do the same thing they suggested, but the same bottom line impact. We'd go from 28 to number 8. We'd have fiscal sustainability for 40 plus years, and we'd be number 3 in the world in fiscal governance. And the number 1 country, and the number 2 country, and the number 4 country all face serious challenges within the last 20 years. They got their act together, and now they're ranked highly. By the way, notice Mexico's 10 points ahead of us. Which way are they going on the border? And here's the debt ceiling limit. If you look at this, adjusted for inflation, we've raised it many times, but you can see clearly we started losing our way in the early 80s. We regained sanity somewhat in the 90s when Bush 41 and Clinton, one Republican, one Democrat, supported tough statutory budget controls. They constrained spending until 2002, when at the end of that year, those controls expired, and you can see exactly what happened. We got out of control. So one of the things we have to do is learn from history, learn from others, bring back tough controls, start reforming our systems, and we can make sure that our future is better than our past. Now, how about the state? The composition of state spending has not changed dramatically in the last 8 years, but what that means is we've got to fundamentally relook at all of state government. It doesn't mean that you've got a problem in one area, you've got a problem across the board. This is cash versus accrual. You know, governments typically account for their budget deficits on a cash basis, but when you look at it on an accrual basis, it's actually much worse. And it's getting worse. And one of the biggest drivers are underfunded pension plans and unfunded retiree health obligations. The worst state in the union, New Jersey. The best state in the union, ironically, Wisconsin. Connecticut is one of the worst in the union. And if you look, the problem's getting worse. If you just look at pensions alone, the amount of unfunded obligations is increasing dramatically. Understand, underfunded pension plans, unfunded retiree health plans, underfunded Medicare, Social Security, and other programs represent deferred taxes absent reforms. And where's Connecticut? Number 50 out of 50. Dead last. Dead last in total liabilities and unfunded promises for a taxpayer. And if you adjust it for a higher level of income, we're number 3. And if you consider, so third from last. And if you consider the fact that we don't have county governments, because we don't, which is good news, bad news, you'll find that we're still in the top 10. I think number 5, number 7, whatever. So we've got serious problems. The decisions that are made or that fail to be made in the next 5 years by elected officials in Washington and Hartford will largely determine whether our country's and our state's future is better than the past. We are are at a critical tipping point. We have to make tough transformational reforms in a whole range of areas. Nip and tuck won't work. We need radical reconstructive surgery. And we need to do it with regard to the spending side and the revenue side, and we need to do it in a way that will keep us competitive, that will be fair, that will be equitable, that will be affordable, that will be sustainable. Next Wednesday, the Come Back America Initiative will issue a Restoring Fiscal Sanity report, which will outline 2 different ways forward to put the federal government's finances in order, where everything is on the table. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, other health care, taxes, defense cuts, other cuts. It is essential in order to try to help with the current debt ceiling negotiations, to help facilitate public education engagement, and in order to try to help elected officials make tough choices without losing their job. And let me reinforce, we need nonpartisan solutions that can gain bipartisan support, and we need to do it quick, because the clock is ticking and time is not working in our favor. And as Senator Lieberman said, the miracle of compounding is working for us. Keep in mind, if you're a saver, an investor, it works for you. If you're a debtor, and the United States is the world's largest debtor, and Connecticut one of the worst in the Union, it works against you. If you make tough choices sooner rather than later, it works for you. If you kick the can down the road or into the next state, it works against you. So it's up to us to try to change course. And now I would like to introduce our distinguished panel for the federal panel, and I would ask that they come forward using the stairs here. We're so pleased to be able to have Congresswoman Nancy Johnson and Congresswoman Barbara Kennelly join us, 2 very distinguished public servants who represented this